Live from the parade for the third time. The Chiefs have won 3 championships.
That's right.
It's our second time, of course. We were here last year, home of the Red Kingdom and home of Never a Doubt. It's first things first. Alongside Chris Broussard, I'm Kevin Wilds. And Nick, what a homecoming. For both of us, really.
And, Brew, be honest, the fans have been great to you.
Fans have been great. We've bonded over the Midwestern vibe.
Exactly.
They've giving me love, except for the one teenager who was like, don't you ever say anything else about the Chiefs.
I've been with Brew, it's about 85%.
Yeah, exactly.
88.
There was somebody in the crowd threw up a fist and said, Iowa Mafia. We got a lot of love for Brew. And for Wilds, got back in the kingdom in the nick of time.
People love it.
Love it. And for me, with respect to my 3 children and my wonderful wife, this is the best day of my life.
Fantastic.
Best day of my life. It's pretty great. I mean, we got folks with actual Never a Doubt tattoos. We've got signs.
Yep.
We've got Steve Spagnuolo introduced me to his wife who loves me. It's just a great day. Just a great day. Great day.
All right, so we're going to get to the show now. But, Nick, what's the #1 football reason we're back at the parade?
So, and I think Brew is probably going to talk about the right answer, which is Patrick Mahomes, and go on about that, because it can't happen without him. But as great as Mahomes is, so many other things had to be perfect for this to happen. Because last year the Chiefs became just the 2nd team ever to win a Super Bowl with their quarterback having a top 5 cap hit. Top 5. This year, they become the 1st team ever to win a Super Bowl with the quarterback having the #1 cap hit in football. That was Patrick Mahomes. So how is that possible? The answer is they nailed the draft for 3 years in a row. So if we show you from 2020 to 2022, the 3 drafts before this past year, that is 11 either starters or massive contributors. Willie Gay, L'Jarius Sneed, the best corner in football. Nick Bolton played every snap. Creed Humphrey, the best center in football. Noah Gray, the backup tight end who's been excellent when Travis hasn't been in there. Trey Smith, one of the best guards in football. Trent McDuffie, an all-pro. George Karlaftis, who has 22 sacks in 2 years. Cook, who was injured. Leo Chanel, who was underrated. All of those guys. So, the Tyreek Hill trade is kind of what allowed this type of team to be built. To nail the draft like that, and I don't even know if I had on there Isaiah Pacheco, who, if I did, I skipped over him, who obviously is on there.
Right.
And then Rashee Rice this year in the 2nd round. When 65% of your team, of your contributors, are guys you drafted and they're on their rookie contracts, that's how you can do what you've done with the superstars.
No, that's fair. There's no doubt about it. And a lot of those guys, obviously, defensive players, and the defense was tremendous. You were saying all year it might be the best defense in the league. And whether you want to argue Baltimore or not, at the end of the day, they got it done, and nobody else did. But I'm going to go Mahomes. I mean, we have not seen, because we haven't seen anything like this, period. Now, we not this early in his career.
Okay,
we talked
fair
yesterday about how he's off to the best start of any player in NFL history. And it's not even close. I mean, we had to go to other sports to get somebody like him. And the thing about Mahomes, as successful as he is in the regular season, and his winning percentage is off the charts, touchdown percentage, all that stuff, he actually gets better in the playoffs, which is incredible. Usually, if you just play at your regular season standard in the playoffs, you're viewed as clutch. Because you're facing better competition, stakes are higher, and if you're a 300 hitter and you hit 300 in the playoffs, you're clutch. He actually gets better. He wins at a higher rate. His touchdown percentage stays even. Interception percentage gets better. Passer rating gets better. No one else has done that. And if you look at, there's only 4 you can put in his class now historically, and really 3, but we're going to throw Peyton Manning in here. Manning, Montana, and Brady. And you look, their winning percentages go down in the playoffs. Completion percentages down. Montana's passer rating rises, but the other 2 go down dramatically, and Mahomes goes up. So we are watching, literally watching something we have not seen before, and that's why ultimately, with all you said, which is right, with the defense, which is great, it's about Mahomes.
So I'll shut out the defense, and apropos, Brew and I went inside while you were being serenaded, and we were like, I think that's Spags right there, just like calmly eating a Caesar salad, just like sort of like with his family.
Looked just like him.
It was him.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
I couldn't believe it was
I think he signed a contract, whether it was this morning or last night, but it was Chris Jones. The Chiefs broke the news, and Chris Jones tweeted, "Best to ever do it."
Yep. And that's correct.
It's fantastic. So the most games allowed, not allowing 28 points or more. So the Chiefs are right there, and basically, you know what? If you keep a team under 28 points for this long, you win the Super Bowl. Right. And the Chiefs are already blasted past the 2000 Ravens. So, in this defense, I know you were joking around about like maybe we should have a collection plate for Chris Jones. I think Chris Jones got to be priority number one. Oh, if you got to break the bank for Chris Jones, you have to do it.
So I totally agree with you. I do think that there's always the chance that there is a team that not only desperately needs Chris Jones, but desperately wants to weaken Kansas City, and is therefore then willing to make him an offer that is almost impossible for Kansas City.
It's almost like what Buffalo did with Von Miller.
Yes, and Buffalo did that even though they weren't taking Von from Kansas City, but to deal with Kansas City. They're talking about him right now. Chris Jones is a Hall of Famer now, and he is in his prime. The Chiefs traded away one of those, and that in Tyreek Hill. To lose another one in the midst of it would be unprecedented and potentially devastating. What I do think is to the point that Brew was making about Mahomes and that I was making about the draft is I think because of what Patrick has shown these 5 years, that no matter the style of team you build, he can be the best quarterback for it. Right. It gives them flexibility to a degree.
No doubt.
Because that is, and this is where I'm curious where you're at, Brew. If we were to say, I am building a team, kind of Peyton's Colts, based purely on speed, play in a dome, and not spend money on defense. Right. Your number one draft pick quarterback would be Mahomes. If you're building a cold weather, snowy team, it would be Mahomes. And this year he proved a grind it out, take the points, don't turn it over, which was the one thing we didn't know. It would be Mahomes. So that gives you a level of flexibility that is, in my opinion, unprecedented in NFL history.
No, there's no question. And this was the litmus test. Remember, I was one that said earlier in the season when they started struggling, they are wasting his prime, Mahomes. And I was wrong. But I thought it looked like they were taking him for granted. You don't have any great receivers. You have a historically great one. You let him go. But he proved that even with a group that's not great, he still can win it. And so you're right. They can build it however they want until proven otherwise. You can win no matter what.
Before we move on, there was one team on there on the allowing under 28 points that kind of stuck out that was odd to me, and it was the Packers. The Packers' Aaron Rodgers year. And this is the distinction I want to draw between Patrick and Aaron, because I do think when it comes to raw physical talent, Aaron has an argument alongside Patrick of the most talented quarterbacks ever, as far as mixing in the mobility and all of it. Aaron needed a team a certain way, man. Aaron had a start similar to Patrick's. First year as a starter, a great playoff performance but lost. Second year, they win the Super Bowl. Third year, they were 15-1, like the Chiefs were the defending champion years, 14-1, and then lose a heartbreaker in the playoffs. But Aaron clearly needed great receivers. The team didn't get those until Devontae, and then still they weren't able to, he wasn't able to adjust his style the way Patrick has. And that's one of the reasons a guy that talented has gone through this drought, not to mention your point. Well, right, the playoff stuff is the opposite for Aaron.
Okay. Mahomes joins Brady and Montana, only 3-time Super Bowl MVPs. Brady has 5. Bradshaw, Starr, and Eli have 2. Brew, what do you think Mahomes proved with this Super Bowl victory?
Well, I think that he proved, look, neither of us, as much as we like Mahomes, is going to say he's the GOAT. But I do feel like, Wiles, at least to this point.
He gave me quite the hug earlier. I could be moved. Go ahead.
To this point, I think an objective look at Mahomes, you have to say, I think he's the best we've ever seen. Now, again, not the most accomplished. He hasn't done what Brady, he hasn't done half of what Brady's done as far as winning. So you can't say he's the GOAT yet. But he just looks like the best we've ever seen. I brought up the playoff stats in the last, segment. And so there's number one. Number two, they can never be counted out. Right. Even as I doubted them during the season, especially when they were struggling, I remember saying if they get in the tournament, you got to give them a shot. Like, you cannot count them out. I think now what he's proven, if they get in the tournament, they're the favorites, at least in the AFC. Like that, I think you have to give them that. And I also think there's going to be a mystique about him now. Correct. Like we have seen in the past. Philadelphia talked trash after losing last year. Cincinnati's been talking trash over the years. I think it's getting close to a point. I don't know that you're going to hear much trash talk about Mahomes. Now, I'm not saying teams won't think they can beat him, but rile him up, talk trash when he's down. I think teams will just say, look, we got to go in there and beat him, but we're not going to give them bulletin board material, to your point.
You guys, speaking of the bulletin board, before I give my answer, you guys made fun of me whenever someone would call their quarterback the best quarterback, putting it on the bulletin board. Honest question. Do you think
it's a great
next year when Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or Lamar or any of their teammates are asked about their quarterback, I think what they will say,
one of the best,
or one of the two best. I think that even opponents with great quarterbacks are not going to say anymore, actually, we have the best quarterback.
Right.
I just think it'll look ridiculous.
Exactly.
That's a great take. You know what would be considered trash talk? My guy can go toe to toe.
Yeah. Right. No.
Just equal is
that will be
trash talk. This is my favorite graphic. Mahomes this season with 80-plus passer rating.
You pulled this out at the beginning of the playoffs.
Yeah.
I was unaware of it. It's great.
It speaks to what you were saying, Brew. Like, he's never going to be bad.
Right.
He's never going to be like throw up duds. And a combination of Mahomes who can be Superman if he needs to, but he doesn't have to put on the cape 20 weeks. He can have a few down games, and if he does, as long as he's over 80, you're winning. So I think there's the other thing I was going to say was, reminds me of like a bona fide movie star, like a real movie star, bankable movie star, where in order for a movie to work, you need a good director, a good script, and, good acting. Or you can get a movie star. They're like, hey, is the director any good? Is the script any good? Like, you know what? It's a lot of Tom Cruise running. Just Tom Cruise running. Like, it'll work. And people used to say this about Brady, will cover up a lot of flaws.
Yes. No doubt.
If you lose somebody's hurt, I can cover that up because I'm a movie star.
Go ahead.
You know what else, Wilds, and I'm glad you brought up Brady, because one thing Brady had over Mahomes until this year, I guess you could say last year he didn't have the great receiving corps, but Juju's a legit professional receiver, right? Brady was winning a lot of these championships without the great supporting receivers, right? Yep. His first several championships, he didn't have great receivers. And that was something that was like, especially when they were struggling this year, it was like, wow, can Mahomes really lift these guys? And he proved that he can, so that's one thing that he showed where he can be Brady-like in that regard.
But here's the thing where he's not Brady-like or Unitas-like or Rodgers-like or Manning-like. He doesn't have bad playoff games. Right. So if people want to call the Tampa Bay Super Bowl a bad game by him, I just disagree. I know the numbers are awful. I think that if you ask Brady, the Tampa defenders, if you watch the game, I don't think anyone watched that game in real time was like, Mahomes is having an off game. It looked like he was running for his life.
Right.
But even if you call that a bad game, that's 1 in 18. The AFC title game against the Bengals 2 years ago, he had a bad half, and it still sticks out. Since then, by the way, he's undefeated. He's 7-0 in the playoffs. There is no one across NFL history that is true for.
No.
That you don't eat, because Brady famously was able to rally at the end of some bad games and win, or there were some real, the game against the Chiefs in 2018, the AFC title game, Brady was bad throughout that game and then amazing at the end. And they're so he doesn't have bad playoff games, which reminds me of Jordan in his prime, LeBron in his prime, where it was like a dud is impossible. Are we getting an A- or an A+? And then if we can show the career playoff wins, because this is something we've shown so much that I feel like it's almost lost its impact. He has more playoff wins than everyone but Brady and Montana. Think about how long you watched Peyton Manning.
Yep, right.
He was in 4 Super Bowls.
Yep.
Brett Favre played for my entire life. Like these, and the fact that he has in 6 years speed run. He's run down every legend there was, except for a guy who ran a 3-minute mile, and so that is it's just we've almost become numb to it.
Kansas City Chiefs.
4-time Super Bowl champions.
Chiefs are entering the stage.
Yeah.
This is just fantastic. All right.
Somebody's got a bear on their head.
Who is that?
Brady told Mahomes he was handing the keys over to him in 2019. Very kind of Duncan LeBron type moment. Who is the QB most likely to take the keys from Mahomes, bro?
Well, look, obviously a lot of people might say Joe Burrow, and next year I do think, and we'll get to that they're going to be a challenger, Cincinnati. But I have to go C.J. Stroud. He had the best, if you're talking about who could challenge Mahomes in the future, C.J. Stroud had the best rookie season. He didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher as far as a running back. His offensive line was in flux for most of the year, and Tank Dell, one of his top receivers, got hurt.
Yep.
Nico Collins had a couple injuries, or, was out a little bit. C.J. Stroud, now, look, we've only seen it 1 year. He does have to come back next year and show us he's the real deal. But also, his leadership, his character, his
100%.
work ethic, and natural talent does seem similar to Mahomes. So I think C.J. Stroud is.
All right. He's not in the league.
That's my take.
He's not in the league.
Yeah.
And if I have to say a name, and you guys are going to reflexively get angry with me, but I'll say Caleb for these reasons. And it's not that I think Caleb is definitively better than CJ. It is that being in the NFC is a massive edge in this because you can stack playoff victories without having to go through this guy. You can get the Bears also, by the way, the division they're in, the cap space, they can build it up quickly. And Mahomes is not handing this thing off for at least 5 more years.
That's my take.
So in my opinion, it can't be, sorry if I'm taking your take.
No,
but it can't be Burrow or Allen. Is by the time Mahomes might be able to hand it over, they will be at the near end or out of their prime. So you need someone who in 7 years is going to be in his prime. So CJ's a good answer. I just think being in the AFC makes it harder and being a year older.
So my answer was nobody right now.
Yeah.
And I had Josh pull the numbers. If we talk about Brady being generational and then Mahomes being generational, it takes about 20 years. Yeah. So it's the same with who's the next Tiger? We don't have him yet.
Right.
He's not around. Who's the next Jordan? It took a while until LeBron came around. So Brady's 18 years older than Mahomes. Mahomes 28. So the person that Mahomes is going to hand the keys over to is in 5th grade right now. But someone that's the gap. The idea that we have greatness stacked up against each other, I just don't buy. I think that their literal generational talent takes a generation to develop.
That's fair. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And look, the thing is in football, and I know Jordan only did it for 6 years, but him we've got a litany of names that he kept from winning championships. You don't see that in football.
No.
Brady won freaking 7, more than any franchise, and yet Manning won. Russell Wilson, a lot of other guys won. So this will be interesting. Does Mahomes shut it down where just about nobody else can win?
So that's Kevin Clark has repeatedly made the point that Patrick Mahomes, through no fault of these other guys, is inalterably changing their legacies. That there's a whole this generation of Lamar, Josh, Joe, and Joe got him the one time. Those guys, Justin Herbert, is that they are going to be remembered differently historically, purely because of this one guy's existence.
That's right.
gobbling up all the titles and all the opportunity.
Yeah, even the Burrow got him one time. Like, if you do get over on the Chiefs, you have to win the Super Bowl.
Well, that's the thing.
Right, that's a good point.
Get the silver medal. Like, yeah, I got him. Like, not really.
Well, that is what makes that so painful for them, is that they got him, and then they had a lead in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, and they couldn't finish it.
All right, finally, Chiefs lost to the Lions week 1. Mahomes is on the stage.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I mean, I might have to stop if he calls me up there, but just so I'll go quickly. Listen, the reality is this: 20-0.
Oh!
Yeah.
I don't want to hear any different.
They all doubted us, he said. It's pretty good. And so the 20-0 was about the bulletin board, obviously. Like you said, it was Kaiser Sose, usual suspects. I'm not willing. We got to see how a lot of things go. Here's what I am willing to say. That the national media is going to find a way come August to convince themselves that this is Buffalo's year. That's what I believe is going to happen. And I am not, while I'm not willing to say 20-0, I'm willing to say we're going to be back here in a year. I'm going to be the first team ever to win 3 straight.
I am not going against that right now. That's for sure. And I got to be honest, look, we'll see next year. We might be a trio up here. We might be the 3 Musketeers just picking the Chiefs in the preseason. But I'll say this, I won't go 20-0 like you, because the human nature is for the Chiefs players, even though they're going to be focused on the championship, you also know it's about January and February.
Yep.
And I think you slipped into this being right. But some of the regular season will be like kind of practice. Like, let's get it right. I mean, seriously.
Classic tune.
Classic tune.
No, real. I got to give you that. Like, they're trying to win, obviously, but you're willing to work on some stuff. And then other teams giving you their best shot.
I buy that.
That's the thing, too.
See if you buy this. I don't know if you saw this, Brew. This was in Peter King's article. Andy Reid told Peter King that after the Raiders game on Christmas, Andy Reid called Antonio Spears to text him. I texted him. I said, hey, beautiful facility. We'll win the Super Bowl there. And I appreciate you kicking our tail because you taught us a lesson. You get complacent in this business. The margin between winning and losing is tiny. So that speaks to what you say. So this is, I'm going to switch this take on you. Would 20-0 actually have been bad for the Chiefs?
Well, 20-0 wouldn't have been, but 17-0. I was 17-0. Yeah, I mean, I wonder, I do think that that the Patriots being undefeated is one of the reasons that the Giants playing them close rattled them a bit.
Yep.
I don't know if this team's the same, but now the 20-0 thing I thought was a carrot. They have a totally new carrot now.
Right.
The first ever 3.
You don't need it.
You know what I mean? And so you needed like something. This now it is, we are trying to become the greatest team ever.
Yep.
They win the Super Bowl next year. They're the greatest team ever.
Just quickly, Brady's 7th year, 18-0.
What? Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Can still go after it.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.